Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Sansone. I'm a psychotherapist opposed to psychopathic authoritarianism. This is my matters and everything else. My website's josephsansone.com. Hey, I have Michael Yan with us today. Michael's well, I think he was one, if not the one of the youngest Special Forces Green Berets, military historian. Michael has been spending the most recent years, I think, really documenting what's going on around the world and reporting, from location and gathering information. So as a guy with a military background and a special forces background, and being a military historian and author, wanted to kind of check in with you, Michael, to see what's going on exactly right now and where you think it's headed. But before we do that, just tell people your Substack and everything so they can follow you.
All right, I'm on Substack and I'm on X. My name is Michael Yon, Yon. I think it's written on the bottom of the screen. So on my Substack, it's Big Honey too, or on my X is also Big Honey. That was my call sign on the radio down on the border, on the on the U.S. border, Mexican border, on the radios. But anyway, obviously we're watching the war unfold here with Iran and others. It's not just going to be Israel versus Iran. Actually, something interesting happening yesterday. I'm in Thailand. Masako, my wife, and I, we were just over in Europe for 3 months. We stayed for over a month with Catherine Austin Fitz and that sort of thing. That was in Netherlands. Then we went to Germany. Then we went to Sweden and Norway and Denmark. And then we
Which, by
just
the
left.
way, I saw your interview where you said I think your visa was running out, so you couldn't stay. But I was hoping to see you next week in the Netherlands, but I won't. So
Yeah,
I guess you couldn't stay, unfortunately. But yes,
yeah. And we left early because we sensed the war was going to kick off with Iran and we didn't want to get stuck. And actually, this time. We didn't fly with Emirates or Qatar Airways, even though I love those airways. We flew with Turkish Air because I didn't want to. I just thought it was a bad idea to fly through the Middle East. We could get stuck there, and I didn't want to get stuck with Masako there. If it was just me doing war correspondent stuff, sure I would go, but I don't want to take Masako. And so we flew Turkish Air, and then we landed here in Thailand. And today, or now is Sunday here, but yesterday, Saturday, when I say it's Sunday, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning here. And so yesterday, Saturday, we went out looking at gold stores and we were looking at gold and silver. And we were doing that because we wanted to see what the atmospheric was. Was a lot of people buying gold? Because you can sense something from that. So we went to Chinatown and Bangkok, and there was a lot of people buying gold. But more importantly, we went to quite a few stores, and actually Thailand has started to sell silver now, which in the past they historically haven't done much. And so, in any case, we went to eat dinner, and then while we're eating dinner, we get a message that all the gold stores in Thailand have been shut because of the war just started with Iran, right? And with Israel, Iran. So we actually left the restaurant and we went back to two of the stores, and they were actually shutting the doors. They hadn't shut the doors yet, and they were shutting them. We took video, and they were shutting the doors because it was Saturday, and the Thai gold stores and the Thai people buy a lot of gold, right? They're not like Americans and Japanese who have been brainwashed to save in fiat. Not that you save in fiat, but let's say to lose in fiat, and as opposed to save in gold. But the Thais still save in gold, right? And heavily gold and very little silver in Thailand. But anyway, so on Friday in Thailand, the stores, they set whatever price that they're selling for the whole weekend was the Friday price, right? And then on Monday they sell again at the Monday price. So the prices over the weekend are fixed by law to whatever the closing bell was on Friday on gold and silver, right? So they closed the stores because the shooting just started with Zionists versus Iran, and so they actually shut the stores because they want to see what the prices are going to be on Monday. That was just a fascinating atmospheric. And by the way, I put that on X, and you see people in the comments going, I live in Thailand. You don't know what you're talking about, and blah, 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 blah. They always shut at 5. I'm like, get out of here, man. You know what? And people are making comments. This is your first time in Thailand. It's like, Actually, I used to have an office in Chiang Mai, and I wrote the last 2 pages of one of the prime minister's books, and I titled his book, right? I've been all over Thailand. I'm extremely familiar with Thailand because this is the hyphen in Indo Pacific security. Thailand is not just a vacation spot. For people that look at the world the way I do, Thailand is as key as our other places that we were just at, such as Denmark. Why were we in Denmark? We weren't there to eat Danish pastries. We were not in Sweden to to watch ABBA, although we went to the museum. In Norway, we were there because these are strategically important places, right? And that's why the United States is, getting basing agreements with over 40 bases in the Scandinavian countries: Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I think 47. Anyway, it's quite a few. And so that's part of what's happening in Iran. It's not unrelated. It's directly related, actually. That's why we spend so much time in Panama. In any case, the end of the day, the war is picking up steam. We see now a lot of credible information coming in that the drone strikes are effective against our facilities in different countries. And these are drones that are flying about the speed of a carrier pigeon, right? I mean, and they're still hitting their targets. That doesn't bode very well, actually. That means we're basically, it appears to be almost defenseless against those very cheap drones. And at this point, it's easily imaginable that we could lose
Well,
Navy ships, right?
why, I just real dummy question. Why is that? Is it because they're actually flying so slow they're not being picked up, or what's the reason?
Good question. I mean, they should have been able to pick those up at least on what's called a sea whiz. They should be able to shoot them down actually in different ways, but
Okay.
they're obviously hitting their targets. It looks like they're hitting hotels that have American families and their contractors and that are there, doing family contracting. They're doing contracting things, probably a lot of it for the military as well. But at the end of the day, the war is kicking off. Israel's getting hit. Bahrain's getting hit, and I'm sure I've seen that it's been reported that Iran has hit at least 5 countries. That may have changed,
Now, I don't know if
and
you've
it's easy.
seen, have you seen the reports, Michael, that they're claiming that the Ayatollah has been killed?
Yeah, and I was just talking with Mike Adams about that, and I don't think it makes any difference on the large
Okay.
scale. On the large scale, it just doesn't, because this is about something much bigger. It wouldn't matter if Netanyahu or Trump were gone tomorrow. It wouldn't matter. This is something much larger, right? There's larger ecosystems that are at war here with each other, and so and I think this war will probably grow if it lasts for more than a couple more weeks. Because this is the thing. It's got all the components here for a huge war, because there's too much vested interest here in the energy flowing through the Strait of Hormuz and so many other things. It's not just the Strait of Hormuz, which is incredibly important. It's also the international north-south corridor and some other corridors that have been built and being built. There's a lot going on. Iran is strategically important for a lot more than just Strait of Hormuz and their energy. It's their location, like Panama. Panama is very important. First of all, the canal that we built and opened in 1914, but it's important for a lot of other reasons. Location, location, location. Iran is that too. Iran is a sort of it's a place you would want to control. Let's put it that way, right?
Mhm.
And that's why we had the war with Iraq and Afghanistan. Notice Iraq and Afghanistan border Iran, right? And I think as time goes on, you're going to have more Americans, increasing number of Americans that are going to turn against Israel and the Zionists in particular. They are already turning against them hardcore, and I think most Americans actually have a hard time naming actually one Persian that they want to kill. You know what I mean? It's like
Right, right.
we don't have, like, I never wake up in the morning thinking about how I can hurt Persians. I mean, I tend to like them actually. And so, it's quite the opposite. And I think this is not going to go well internally in the United States. And especially if we end up losing some ships. I don't know if that's going to happen,
So,
but
Michael, would you say if it doesn't end within a few weeks, it's going to mushroom? Or is it going to mushroom no matter
probably,
what?
probably
Yeah.
because the Strait of Hormuz seems to be closed. And if it is closed, that's going to have a dramatic effect. I've been telling people in Japan now for, I don't know, maybe more than a year. If you see a couple of years, if you see the Strait of Hormuz close, you should buy food immediately, right? Because over time, those prices are going to rise dramatically at a minimum. And not that they get their food through the Strait of Hormuz, but through a cause and effect chain of events, you'll end up, you could have food problems, right? It could, the flash to bang could be long. You got time to react to it. Just get yourself up and start reacting to it, so that you're proactive, not reactive. And so there's a lot of countries like China, of course, that are dependent on that energy. There are the Strait of Hormuz countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, all these guys that are they're punching oil through the Strait of Hormuz. They're dependent on it as well. So both incoming cargo and outgoing, it's just a big deal. So you'll have everybody come to the show. Chinese will get involved. Japanese will get involved. Russians are obviously deeply involved. And right now, Yemen has said that they're going to close off the seas around them, right? And this can easily spin out of control. This could actually end up being the end of Israel. Now, every time I say that, people that are deeply involved emotionally and
Yeah.
not looking at this, like, you have to look at this in a calculated way, not emotional way. Like when you look at how the table is being set, I've been warning about this for a long time. This war could end to Israel. Will it do it? I do not know. Can it do it? Oh, yes, 100%, right? For various reasons. Israel has wanted to go to war with Iran for a very long time. I could tell
Since the
many
80s,
stories about it.
since the 80s at least.
And they're always like, Iran will have a nuclear weapon in 15 minutes, right?
Yep.
And so it's the same thing right now. They're saying the same. They keep selling the same apple over and over and over because people keep buying it. And but they needed to destroy Hamas. They needed to destroy Hezbollah, and they needed to destroy the Houthis, which hasn't worked. And actually, Hamas is still fighting. I mean, I see SIGAX coming. I see what's happening coming from Gaza. They're still doing daily airstrikes there, and they're still doing daily drone strikes. The Israelis are. They're still doing a lot of small arms fire. The Hamas, the Gazans are still fighting. That place has been destroyed and leveled, and those people are so tough. They're literally still fighting, and they're being killed every day. They're still fighting. If IDF, with the backing of the United States and massive, endless money at the taxpayer expense of Americans who can't afford to make ends meet, if they can't beat the people in little Gaza, who's completely isolated, how is that going to work out with giant Iran, who's not isolated, and they got a direct rail line to China and direct resupply from Russia?
Well,
It's not going to work. Meanwhile, if we look at Ukraine, you've got people like Hungary and Czech Republic now getting angry, and they're thinking about doing something on Ukraine, right? This is not going to turn out well, right? We were
so
just in
that
Copenhagen
leads
there.
to my next question, Michael.
Yeah,
That leads to my next
right.
question. So, we're like fighting a proxy war against Russia, Europe and the United States through Ukraine, and so
Yeah.
now are we going to see Russia and China fighting a proxy war against us through Iran? So were we really like in World War III through proxies? Like, where are we right now?
Proxies and almost direct at this point. And we all know who's doing what. This isn't like
Yeah,
hidden proxies, maybe.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
you got Pakistan now, going to war with Afghanistan. You keep in mind routes and resources. You've got China is obviously very close to Pakistan, and India is now buddying up with Israel, right? United States, let's say, and because everybody's forming their little groups, which always are subject to change. But because obviously India and China and Pakistan do not get along so well. So everybody's forming into their oligarchical systems. Interestingly, these key ports like Gwadar and Chabahar and all these different places, all of them are subject to being bombed, even though they're off on the periphery. They're key components in the routes and resources. This is all about three things: routes, resources, and ideology. And the ideology means human resources. So it's really about routes and resources. And you can see that that the Israelis, let's say the Zionists actually is more accurate, are going for places like Panama. What you see in Panama, where I spend so much time, is actually Zionists versus China more than anybody else, right? It's the same that you see now over with Iran. It's Zionists versus China and Russia, right? And Iran. It's basically Zionists against the world. You go down to Argentina, it's Zionists against China, right? We went down there and looked in 2024 and early 2025. It's Zionists versus China down there. These are things that most people don't know about, right? Like Mayakovsky is he's the top dog down there in Argentina. That's Mele, right? Mayakovsky, same last name as Netanyahu. Netanyahu's original name was Mayakovsky, same as the guy down in Argentina, Mayakovsky, right? This is all the same ecosystem of people. In Texas, you see the same thing. Huffines, Trump just flew to Texas and he just endorsed Abbott, who's Zionist ecosystem, and he just endorsed Don Huffines as comptroller, Abbott for governor, and Huffines' family bought the Epstein Ranch over in New Mexico, right? So in other words, Trump just flew to Texas. He did not endorse Doc Pete Chambers, who's running for governor and
Who's the
picking up
only
increasing
candidate who
support.
said that the mRNA injections are a bioweapon and will stop it immediately,
Yeah, you support Doc
among
Chambers.
other
I support
things.
Doc
Yeah,
Chambers, right?
yeah.
But Trump just flew over there to support literally the Epstein ecosystem. Literally, I mean, Don Huffines, his family bought
So,
that Epstein Ranch
all
over in New
right.
Mexico.
Building off that, I hope you don't mind my dummy questions coming in here, but building off of that, like when you're seeing that picture of Trump where he's in the White House with his little white hat on, like he looks like a hostage to me. Like usually when you're building a war up, you get like a whole bunch of support, and the support dwindles as the war goes on. Now I think it's like 20 something percent. There's not a lot of support for this war going in. It's only going to go down. And I'm just like, what's the odds of him being blackmailed into this war? Because it's the exact opposite of what he campaigned on. And you've got all these Epstein revelations coming out. It's like, he looked like a hostage in that photo to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to recruitment, there's the four major cheeses, right? Mice, money, ideology, coercion, and ego. Trump has no ideology, right?
No.
He's just money.
Me, myself,
Uh,
and I.
yeah, that's it. He's a
Yeah.
narcissist, right? And once you spot a narcissist, you know it's going to be a problem. But Trump is a narcissist, and and uh, and so he's easy to capture with money and ego and coercion, right? All three. Because once you've got him with the one cheese with money, it's easy to get him with coercion, right? Because you gave him money, you know what I mean? And
Right.
and you recorded that you just gave him a bunch of money, and so now you can use that as blackmail, and you get him to Epstein Island. You can have him with all kinds of high definition video and audio with things that could get you put in prison for the rest of your life, right? Much less you'll never be president, right? I mean, I'm sure that they have. He's not a good human being. He never has been. I've said that. Many people have said you used to support Trump and now you turned your back on him. That's completely false. The number of days that I supported Trump remain at zero. I've been very open about that since before the first election when Newt Gingrich called me trying to get support for Trump. And I said no. I'm not going to vote for a Clinton, obviously,
Right.
but you got to have somebody better than Trump. I do not trust him. I will never trust him, right? And it's only gotten worse from there. And it's the same with Abbott. I'm sorry, in Texas. For years, I've gone against Abbott, and a lot of my friends in Texas are like, "Why are you going against Abbott? He's conservative. At least he's not, that other guy." They always do.
It's
At least he's
selective
not that
memory,
guy.
though. They forget the lockdowns and that kind of stuff. It's like selective memory. Like, what's
Yeah,
conservative? I mean,
yeah.
how's that
And
conservative?
Abbott's pushing the jab. I mean,
Yeah.
he's pushing the jab. So I mean, and they're like, well, he's better than the other guy. They always run them against somebody that's just abhorrent and sickening,
That's the
right?
strategy. The left looks so crazy that they hold you hostage on who you vote for. So
So by
blackmail might
comparison,
be
Abbott
playing
looks
into this.
good. By
Yeah, right.
comparison, Abbott looks good. But standing alone, Abbott is clearly your enemy. Clearly your enemy. Trump is
Right.
the same way. Standing alone, no conservative in America would ever, no serious conservative,
No.
certainly no Christian, would ever stand up with Trump.
Standing
No
next to
Christian.
Standing next to Kamala Harris, then you're like, all right, it's
Yeah,
like
that's right.
that's how they get
They
you.
just put they just put the thing next to him, and people are like, okay, well, he's better than that thing. It's like, whatever that thing is, whether it's the thing in California or it's a Governor Abbott running against Beto and
So, all right,
breastfeeding his son or whatever.
can the United States win this war?
I think this could be very damaging for the United States. We could lose, definitely lose the war. In fact, we probably will. And why? Because any military person that's looking at this, I mean, how do you see what is winning in this? Can anybody
To
define
me,
what's winning?
winning is getting out without getting our asses kicked, to be honest with you, because I could very easily see us I could see somehow then maybe they penetrate our defenses and take out an aircraft carrier or something, and I could
Easy.
see us backing right out of it after that because there's no will for this. There's no
The
will for
die is
casualties.
cast. The die is cast, right? And so at this point, the Dukes are up. Drones are flying, missiles are flying right now. Now, what are we going to do? Ask for a ceasefire? Why would Iran do a ceasefire? Right? I mean, what
You've already killed the Ayatollah.
if
Why
they
would
can
they?
sink one of our aircraft carriers, if they can make us leave the Gulf, if they can force us out, if they can make Americans flee, and also they can choke down their enemies by. So why would they do that? Why would Iran stop at this point, right? So I mean, they're in a perfect position to both demoralize the United States and make us look weak in front of the entire world because that's what it would be. I mean, they're going into, listen, I've said this for a long time and I believe it now stronger than ever because it's just the evidence is overwhelming. Trump he's been installed to collect MAGA and destroy MAGA, right? Because MAGA is the backbone of the American conservatives, right? Which is basically the people that I like the best, right? It's like the
Right, right.
ones who love families and want to have a white picket fence and study hard and not be crazy and you know what I mean, and be humans and be good people. He collected those people up, brainwashed them, and threw gas on them, right? And threw jabs in them and that sort of thing. And so at the end of the day, he's also destroying the United States because the Zionists want to do that. They hate us, right? The whole Zionist cult, which is not Judaism. Most Zionists are actually Christians. So there's different components of Zionism.
Yeah.
There's atheists. Atheist Zionists tend to
But
run.
I mean, all right, just to piggyback off what you're saying, because I've been saying this for a long time. These wars in the Middle East, they're using us to get rid of Israel's enemy, but to get rid of us at the same time because they're bankrupting us in the process.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh,
an elegant fight. So they're getting us to fight their because we are their enemy. We are their
yes.
Amalek. They want to destroy us just like destroying Gaza. Look, they pushed the death jab into us. And if you say something bad about Israel, like we're saying now, they're going to want to destroy us. I mean, like literally kill us,
Hey,
right?
look, people
Not
have to get over that. You can be against Nazi Germany and not hate Germans. You can be against communist China and not hate Chinese. So you can criticize the Israeli government that's there right now and not hate Jewish people. So
right.
this is not the 1990s. That stuff's going out the window. Nobody cares.
It's counterproductive now. Actually, when
Yeah.
they throw the anti-Semite grenade now, it blows up in their hand. They like pull the
Right.
pin, boom, blows up. Right? Yeah. They go
Yeah.
anti-Sem, boom. It's like didn't work.
Yeah.
It's 0 second fuse. Right? I mean, it's the point is it's not working anymore, and that's very dangerous for them because the cult of the Zionist is one of making their unit cohesion by making us against the world. Right? They put the
Mhm.
wall. Everybody wants to kill us. So now that gives them the reason to want to. Gives you the professional victims are always predators, and
Yeah.
this is also used in brainwashing. They make you a professional victim so you'll be their predator, right? So the Israelis and many other Zionists, not that all Israelis are Zionists, many are not, but let's say the people that are in the Zionist cult, it is a cult. Right? It is a clear death cult. They
When
do
we're talking
terrorism.
about Zion, there's like eight different types. But when we're talking about Zionism, what I think we're talking about is a very nationalist kind of cultural, racial supremacist kind of view. Correct?
That one,
Yeah.
right? That
Okay.
one, and that one is it needs its own name, actually, right? The
Right.
leadership of Israel, right?
Right.
And Trump is one of them, right? And or let's say he's a condom for them, actually. And so, but they have brainwashed their own people. And keep in mind, the people that are brainwashed or infected with this firmware, they're humans like us. They're not bad people per se. They're just infected with that cult. and that cult will kill us, right? Because they are
Bottom
that's their
line is a
operating
lot of
system.
innocent people are going to die in this war.
A lot.
I think President Trump should do like George Washington or Julius Caesar and lead the troops into battle, take Congress with them. They can fight the Iranian officials if they want. Whoever wins, wins. They pay tribute and leave us out of it. Because, they're the ones who should fight the war because most people don't even know Iranians and Iranians don't even know Americans. So why are we
Yeah.
fighting them?
Yeah,
It-
this is significant. I mean, China can then use it. While if our navy gets smoked over there, we lose an aircraft carrier or whatever. And if it runs, and what are our ships going to do that are in the Persian Gulf right now? Where are they going to go? Through the Strait of Hormuz? You're stuck there. You're trapped, right? And I don't know how you're going to fight your way through there, right? Or you could maybe theoretically, but otherwise you're just stuck out there as a sitting target. And it doesn't matter if you turn your transponder off. We got Russians, we got Chinese, we got all kinds of fishing boats out there. They're going to know where our ships are. They can easily target those ships. They can just keep coming at them and coming at them and coming at them, right? Eventually they're going to start getting through, right?
Well,
And it
and think
might be
about
on
it like
day
this
one.
too. In the fog of war, theoretically, like if China wanted to test us out, they could be doing stuff and we're going to assume it's Iran. How do we know who actually hit us?
Right. I mean, they're going to see what our systems react and that sort of thing. If we lose a few ships, is the United States going to be willing to then go toe to toe with China when they go for Taiwan, right? And then Okinawa, right?
So what's the
Okinawa.
best case scenario? What's the best case scenario for the United States now that we're in this mess?
Best case scenario, it's
Like
not
how could it?
good. The best
Yeah.
case scenario is we don't actually openly lose the war. But I'm not sure how you're going to get out of this right now because it's not, we don't have the power to turn it off now. We had the power to
Mm,
turn it on, but we
okay.
don't have the power to turn it off. It's a fight. It's game on now. If the Iranians and the Chinese and the Russians don't want to turn it off, then it's not turned off.
And what
And
about the
keep in
talk
mind,
of
you got Yemen, you
insurgents?
got Pakistan, you got all these other players too.
What about the talk of insurgents on the ground? Is that just pipe dreaming? Like the Iranians will overthrow the government? Is that just a pipe dream?
All the Zionist Trump, all they do is lie. For instance, Trump
Right.
lied about, okay, they're saying 32,000 people died in these protests. Where did he come up with this stuff? He said 38,000 Americans died making the Panama Canal. It was like 350. It was 300 and roughly 50. I've got the original reports to Congress. I bought the original reports years ago. I bought them in an old antique store in Panama, right? I got the original reports to to the Congress. It was like 300 and some odd Americans died building the canal. But Trump's repeated over and over and over. I think one time he said 35,000 and then he went up to 38 or something like that. And now recently it's 32,000 people killed in protest in Iran. And people just buy it. People repeat that to me all the time. What about those 32,000 people killed in the protest? I'm like, how many times can you be fooled, right?
Right.
And still be taken seriously, right? And but they depend on the ability to fool some critical number of people so that they can just get away with it. I mean, while Americans go broke, right? Hundreds
Right.
of billions, if not trillions, have poured into the Zionists. They are absolutely wealthy. They're draining the Americans of our blood like a tick, and they are parasitic. I mean, it's a cult. It's an actual cult, right? And
If you really believe the United States government cares about freedom in other parts of the world after the last 5 years, you're totally delusional. Our government cares nothing about freedom.
there's no freedom in the United States.
Right. That's
I
what I
mean,
mean.
there's
Like,
no, or in the West. Yeah, or even in the West. I mean, for instance, currency controls. I was carrying this little money bag through the airport in Copenhagen a few days ago. This is it. How much money can be in this bag, right? You know what I mean? How much? Well,
uh,
this is what I was carrying. This is my emergency money, right?
okay. Okay.
Okay,
I guess
so
10
I
grand,
go
20 grand.
through.
I don't,
No, it's like less than $2,000, right? It's
okay.
less than 2,000. So it's in euros, and it's in. This is it. It's like nothing. It's like nothing, right? It's no money. It's like less than because there's a bunch of $20 bills, a few hundreds,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
And some anyway. And then I've got this, which is it's $400, right? And the reason you carry it like this is your backup money. It's a way of doing money. It's actually Matt Bracken, the former SEAL. He actually taped this one up for me in Panama. This is $20 bills, $400, right? So why do people carry money like this? They carry money like this because $400 is enough to get you a long car trip and get you a hotel room and get back on your feet. If everything's gone and you still got that, you're buying yourself a couple days anyway, right?
Mm.
And a long car trip maybe. And anyway, so I go through the airport in Copenhagen, and they've got the most sophisticated airplane, security gear I've ever seen anywhere. It's like something from Star Wars, and I'm wondering if it's killing us when we're going through. And we end up with four people going through my money. Four people. They called a supervisor. They're counting my money. They're like, how much money is here? I'm like, I don't know. You're the one counting it. How much? Tell me. Right? It's like less than $2,000. It took 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And then they're like, what's this? And I'm like, $400. Right. And they're like, why is it like that? And I'm like, you need to learn how. I said, you need to learn how to do it like this. I mean, when you see somebody come through with money like this, it's because they go to dangerous places. I go to dangerous places. And this is the way people that go to dangerous places carry money sometimes. Right. This is all I got. It's $400. Right. And so they're counting my money.
Mhm.
And, they call the supervisor. They're counting. I'm like, and they're like, what's, I said, and they said, well, we got to open this. I'm like, why? You just put it through the most sophisticated equipment in the world. Put it back through. I don't want you to open it. That's my money. Then I got to put it back together again somehow, right? I don't have the tape. And just throw it through the x-ray. Do you have a reason to believe it's something contraband? Or like, you're only allowed to carry something like, I don't know, 11,500 euros or something. And I'm like, look how much money I got. It's less than $2,000. Even if this was $100 bills, how many could it be? You know what I
Well,
mean? Like $2,000 maybe. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's less than 2,000. I would be like one less than, it'd be like, approximately one third of what you could carry. This is the way it's gotten to be, complete lockdown, right? Where you've got people took 10 minutes to go through this to make sure it's not over the limit. That's complete control. That's
right,
slavery. That's overt actual slavery.
right.
That much money, which is just any, but a lot of
I'm
these
thinking the
people, they don't.
absurdity over the limit. Like I mean, you're literally saying you can limit how much cash I can carry on my
Yeah.
person. That
And
is
keep
so
in mind, a
absurd.
lot of these people are so brainwashed. To them, that's a lot of cash.
Right. Because, yeah, right.
My readers are going to see this and go, "You only carry less than $2,000." They're going to get upset with me. They're going to expect that I would have carried a lot more. I mean, which I should, but that's how much I've got. That's how much I was carrying, right?
Right.
And it's like, but the point is that's the kind of stuff you see everywhere, right? You can't carry gold or silver without,
Right. Because they're so used
declaring
to
it and that
people
sort of.
using they're so used to a debit and credit card when somebody's carrying cash. They're like, oh, what's that? What are you doing?
They didn't even know what to make of it. They're like, it was weird. It was like a futuristic idiocracy movie, right? Seriously, I'm like, four people. One of them was a supervisor. They got on the phone. They're going through it. It was unbelievable. And this is the kind of stuff. So people like that are very easy to fool. Those are the kind of people that are also very easy to fool to put us in death camps, right?
Right.
I mean, if it takes four people 10 minutes to go through that much money and then
Right.
to determine like, well, there's no crime here.
Right. What's the
It's like
safety?
what?
What's the
It's
safety
like
issue here?
it's like barely enough to get, it's like nothing. It's not even enough to pay for my plane ticket. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not even enough to pay for the plane ticket. And there, but it's cash. Cash. Only dangerous
Well,
criminals
so,
carry
sir,
cash.
if you're gonna pay for this plane ticket in cash, you're breaking the law, and we're gonna have to arrest you here. You can't
Yeah,
carry that much
exactly.
cash
But
on
what
you.
if the ATMs stop working? When you say
Yeah.
things like that, well, what are you going to do if the ATM was not working? Of course, they're like, the ATMs don't ever stop working. I mean, what kind of thought is that? You're
Right.
like,
I mean,
idiocracy, man.
you
That
want to
movie
use
was a
water to you want
documentary.
to use water to grow the plants? It's crazy. Um,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, here they are with the whatever it is, the Gatorade or whatever they're watering the
yeah,
plants with. It's
yeah,
a
Brondo, I think, or something like that.
Brondo. Yeah.
So, all right. So, what are we going to see happening? Like now, if the Ayatollah is dead, what are we just the next level is just going to take over more hardline or what?
Why would they stop? Why
Yeah,
would they
right,
stop? In fact, that would give them more reason to keep going. What are they going to do? Oh, they killed the Ayatollah. It's all dead now. It's all over. It's like,
right.
you know, that doesn't matter. They're going to keep going.
Well, I think I
This is,
ask people to think about after 9/11 how I mean I called bullshit on everything right away, but I mean think of after 9/11 how everybody like rallied behind like your response was you didn't even know who it was. You're like let's you everybody well, is like patriotic. Why would you think the Iranians would act any different if you're blowing up a school or a building or the Ayatollah? I don't understand. Why would you think they would act differently?
Right. The Zionists are basically global school shooters. They are going absolutely nutters. And there's nobody they won't kill. They're always accusing everybody of being hate filled because they're hate filled. They can't even hardly talk without talking about the hatred towards them. It's like, and then they create hatred towards themselves so that they can. You're a psychologist, right? I mean, it's like, they create that thing so that they warm their hands on the hatred, right? They
So
both the outgoing and incoming.
as best as you can, because there's so many variables here and we're in the fog of war here. But how do you see this developing? Who will get involved and when? Like, where do you see like this going over the next month to two?
Well, the Strait of Hormuz apparently is now closed. We'll see. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a
That's going
huge
to
thing,
impact
right?
gas prices here, right? Even though we're not getting it from there, the global market will be affected. So it should.
It's going to affect us in ways that'll be obvious to see and in places that are difficult to imagine because we don't, it's a complex system of complex
Oh,
systems, actually. And so you're going to have things that are going to emerge that we're going to see as they unfold. Like, for instance, I think countries like Japan will be impacted immediately, but the real profound impacts could take weeks or months to start to unfold because there's direct impacts and then there's, hey, the guy that you get the rice from is impacted, but there was
mhm.
already stuff on the boats, they're already on the way, so that's still arriving. So yeah, there's still stuff in the warehouses, so you'll see the flash to bang won't be immediate, right? And so there's some immediate flash to bang. For instance, the gold stores here closed on, but that's small yesterday, right? That's small, but that should give you an indication that people are, there's already starting to adjust, right?
So we're going to see an economic impact for sure. Will we see other countries in the Middle East getting involved, like Turkey or Egypt or any of these other countries in that region?
There's no chance that they can't. Bahrain's taking fire right now. Saudi
Okay.
Arabia obviously will be involved in UAE, clearly, and
On which side?
Qatar. What's that?
On what side? Are they going to be split or
Let's see how it unfolds because sides have a magical way of changing during these
Mhm.
things, right? Sometimes people flip flop. We're gonna see like Bahrain. Obviously, our Fifth Fleet headquarters is there. I've been in that headquarters actually, getting a briefing from the Admiral Gortney. Actually, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates took me there. He picked me up in Afghanistan, and we flew over there, and they had the Manama dialogue, which is a big defense dialogue, and that was in Bahrain. Anyway, but at the end of the day, uh, it's going to be a mess. And you can have neighbors fighting each other. You could have Qatar and Saudi Arabia going at it. I don't know how it's going to play out.
Mhm.
Nobody does actually. And so, but you can see that the Houthis are still strong. They still well armed. You can see that the Suez can obviously easily be closed, and Israel can be devastated. I mean, the Israeli economy is already devastated. Israelis have abandoned Israel. A lot of them are living in Germany and Cyprus and
Mhm.
Argentina and Panama and the United States. They've moved, right? A lot of them have moved. And if enough Israelis just leave, you're going to lose by default. They're just gone. There's only so much that they're not. The idea that they're like invincible is absolute complete nonsense, right? And everybody, all their neighbors know it, right? And it's showtime now. They've picked the fight. It's game on. They punched them in the nose, and here comes the return fire. We're going to see when it's over, which could
Does
take years.
Netanyahu does Netanyahu have the political support for this war?
No more than Trump has. He doesn't
Okay.
have their support is they just have people that'll take orders in the military, in the intelligence
Okay.
world. That's it. I mean, their support is strongman support, and their support is not from the base. Israelis and Americans, they don't support this leadership, generally speaking. And there's even MAGA, as you know, is fractured.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, and which was clearly Trump's job to begin with. And many people said this over and over and over through the years. They would all go, "Oh, you got TDS." No, the people with TDS are the ones who still support him. That's severe TDS, over the top. He's jabbed millions of Americans and maybe billions of people around the world, and they're still supporting him. You can't make up this stuff. This is
Well,
idiocracy.
this is, I mean, politically, I think this is going to ensure the Democrats take control over Congress. And then, I can see him literally being impeached because this war is illegal.
He
I
should be
mean,
in
not only
prison.
was
He
there was
should be
no
in prison.
declaration of, yeah, there was no declaration of war, but there wasn't even an authorization of a force. And this was an offensive war. This was a war of choice. This isn't a just war. It's not like it wasn't a defensive war. It's so abstract, the argument of them getting a nuclear weapon and then that somehow being a threat to us. It's not a real threat. It's not credible.
It's always, Iran is always 15 minutes from having a nuclear weapon. How
Right.
long, again, has Israel been saying this? How many times, when they're like, well, here they are. It's, 1 minute to midnight. They're about to have a nuclear weapon. It's always right on the edge. And at some point, it's time to see through it. The people that did the USS Liberty attack and the people that pushed the death jabs, those are not our friends. Those are our abject enemies who are saying that they're our friends. They are our enemies.
Well, I would argue they were
Straight
involved
up.
with nine. I would argue they were involved with 9/11 too. But
I think you can make a strong argument for that. I think you
yeah,
can make a
I
very
remember
strong
dancing
argument for
Israel.
that.
I remember when it happened, the dancing Israelis, and they ended up being Mossad agents and all that.
Right?
But taking video of it, they scrubbed it largely off the internet. But if you go on Yandex, I think you can still find it. But so how does I mean, what is the idea here? Is the idea that we can pummel them so much with bombs and missiles that we can somehow cripple them? Is that the strategy, or what's the strategy that we're using?
Yeah, how's that going to work? I mean, it's too big. Not just Iran, but the whole ecosystem of opposition. Like you got China, Pakistan. You got Yemen. You've got obviously Russia. You've got Europe falling apart. We just spent 3 months again in Europe. I've spent in total about 7 years in Europe over time, right? So I'm somewhat familiar with Europe, right? It's falling apart. You got Netherlands right now as an example. Netherlands is talking about doing capital gains tax on unrealized gains. They're talking about on unrealized profits. In other words, if your Bitcoin goes up, they're going to, even if you don't cash it in, your gold or
That's
whatever,
crazy.
if it goes
Or
up,
real estate,
they're
your
going to,
value of your home goes up, they'll tax it even though you didn't sell it.
yeah, that's a pure destruction. You might as well
Right.
just be the monk that puts yourself on fire, right? That's like protesting gravity and water by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, right? It's like, I mean, if you want to kill your country, tax unrealized capital gains, right? Who's behind this? I'll
All
tell you
right.
who's behind it. World
Yeah.
Economic Forum. Who's the biggest players in World Economic Forum? Zionist, right? It's them. It's
All right.
them. It's those
All right.
guys.
All right. So boom, we got this conflict we just started here. Obviously, Iran is not Iraq. It's a totally different situation. How does this affect or does it affect the Russia-Ukraine war? How does it
Oh,
impact that
absolutely.
war? Like, because
Absolutely.
I don't know, this might be so simplistic, you might laugh at me, but I kind of think when something's going on and then nobody's paying attention, people just start doing things because no one's watching or they can't stop it. And so if we're engaged over here, does that like allow Russia to do stuff that they want to do normally in Ukraine or Ukraine to do? Like, what do you think's going to happen?
Keep in mind the energy's building more against Ukraine, like with Hungary and
Right.
Czech Republic. The people are getting tired of the Ukraine stuff. When Masako and I were just in the Copenhagen airport, they had dozens and dozens of Ukrainian flags out there, probably 50 or 100 actually. It was more than dozens. They were everywhere.
Wow.
Ukrainian flags in the Copenhagen airport in Denmark, right? They're still flying. This is just days ago, right? This isn't like 2 years ago when it was stupid then. It's
Right.
way beyond even it. Even the people
And do
in
people buy
idiocracy
into
would
it?
call it idiocracy.
Are people buying into it there? Or is it just the government propaganda? Like, are people buying the propaganda there?
A lot of people clearly are. Like I was over
Yeah.
and we spent, how much did we spend? Maybe more than a month between Sweden and Norway and Denmark. Yeah, and Germany. And then a couple of months in Netherlands. About a month and a half in Netherlands and a month and a half in the other places total, right? And so we were talking with a lot of people. And clearly a lot of the Swedish and Norwegians and Danish and Germans are still buying off on the Ukraine thing. Yeah, we were
Wow.
just in Hamburg, Germany, which is the biggest port in Germany, and the third biggest port in Europe. So we were in Hamburg and that sort of thing. And a lot of the people in Hamburg clearly want to go to war with Russia. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You're not, this whole town got burned down by Americans in World War II because you are Hamburg, the biggest port in Germany. You know what I mean? This place
Yeah,
was burned to the ground in fire bombings. If you think Russia can't do this in like one afternoon, you're high on drugs. I mean,
I
they can
understand.
absolutely destroy Hamburg.
I understand how like certain Eastern European countries like Poland and that might have a hard line because they're remembering the Soviet, forces and everything. It's still in their memory, but I don't get how Western Europe wants a war with like the smartest thing here would be to de-escalate this thing from the beginning. I don't understand the logic here because it can't end well if it keeps going on. I don't get
Brainwashing,
it.
man. You know the power of brainwashing. You
Yeah,
know that better than most people. You know it very well.
yeah.
You can never underestimate the power of brainwashing.
Yeah, you're right. Power suggestion works all the time. It's just are we a world at war? Is this World War III?
Oh, clearly, right. It is. I mean, keep in mind, it's a continuation of other wars. It's
Yeah,
not
right, I get it.
discrete. It's not. Yeah, it's been going on for centuries, actually. So it's
Yeah.
an evolution of things that have been. So to understand where we're at now, you're not going to understand it with like a week of reading articles. It's going to take several years, actually, of actually a lot of background study, and then you'll start to get a feel for it. When you start to get a feel for how this thing actually moves, then you'll start to be able to make predictions like how successful we've been on predicting things about Panama and Nord Stream and Groningen gas field and so many things because we actually understand now a lot better the life cycle of this thing. And it's very clear that this is, it's World War III. I mean, it's a continuation, but it's actually becoming very kinetic now. And it's very unpredictable. Keep in mind, wars do three things predictably. One is they grow. Wars, I mean, a real war, not where you just have a few
Yeah.
dust ups like Pakistan and India shooting a few missiles at each other, but it really gets into a real war, right? That will grow just like a dry forest. The fire is going to grow, right? And it's going to grow unpredictably. You can't predict which way the wind's going to turn or whatever,
Hmm.
right? And the rain may come, the May doesn't come. The wars are, and they last longer than people expect. Those three things are highly predictable. If you want to sound like an expert war predictor, just say those three things. I think this war is going to grow. I think it's going to be unpredictable. There could be things happen that we didn't think about, and trust me, it's going to happen. And then this thing could last beyond Christmas. You know what I mean? Actually, it
Right.
could last beyond a lot of Christmases. It could be like the 30 Years' War. You know what I mean? These things will just they can percolate for a long time. This thing is, and keep in mind, the big wars like this, they take time to gather. They take time. The small wars between like two tribes, they can sort of gather energy and start getting it on at high tempo very quickly. But these bigger wars, it takes time for all the energy in the system to gather. It takes time for things to get in place, and it can take years. So and before you know it, the biggest part of the war could be 2 or 3 years from now, right? It could be not it or it could or magically people could say, okay, we've all had enough, and they stop right now. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Let's see. It looks like it's probably going to grow, is my guess, looking at the situation today.
So what does Trump think? Is he thinking he can just bond them and then they'll want to come and agree to something? Is he that delusional or
I think Trump is just basically, he's not the smartest guy in the world, although a lot of MAGA people think that he is, but it's because they don't study very much, so they can't see through him. If they themselves were smarter, they would see that he's not very smart. He is a tool. Trump is a condom for the Zionists. That's all he is. He's just a condom. And when he's done, there'll be another one. He's irrelevant. If Trump's not there tomorrow, it doesn't matter. He's like a leaf on the tree in the autumn. This is his autumn. He'll be gone soon, and somebody will replace him in the larger architecture of what's going on. He's a useful idiot himself. He's an actor himself. Pam Bondi's an actor. All these different people. They're all actors. They're all talent, right? And they call them talent. They call them talent. They call them properties. So you'll hear in that little ecosystem when you're out with these sort of people, which I've spent a lot of time with them, they will literally call people like that talent, or they'll call them properties. And because
Mhm.
you can buy and sell like artists, right? Musicians and
Right.
whatnot. Those are properties.
So after 9/11, I don't know, for a few weeks afterward, they shut down our borders. like and like even the addicts were like jonesing because they couldn't get their drugs and stuff. And then they opened up our borders. That's why I was like, oh, this is total BS. Like even I know with no military background, you secure your perimeter, right? Because back then, like the only delivery system was an illegal alien or someone, an immigrant coming here to do something. And so clearly the quote unquote jihadist threat was exaggerated because our borders have been open since the 80s, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Increasingly so. And it's like we didn't have any terrorists, unless they behind the scenes stopped like 1,000 terrorist attacks we don't know about, which I don't believe. But so what are the odds of either Iran making like actual attacks here, like saboteurs, or false flags, like the Mossad doing it and blaming it on them just to generate more support? Like, where, I mean, would they actually do? Because I don't think, like, think of back in 9/11 where you had a couple buildings getting blown up. And it was horrific, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Americans are prepared for like places to get bombed like you're seeing in Iran right now, places or even in Israel. Like we've never seen a war, really, a real war. I mean, you'd have to go back to the Civil War, really, because even World War II wasn't on our territory except for Pearl Harbor.
Right. I think it's a very high chance that Mossad/CIA will do false flags in the United States. I mean, super high chance. I
To
mean,
build up support.
that's how they roll. I mean,
Right,
that's how that crocodile hunts.
right. And the purpose would be is to build more support for it.
Right. So if they kill a bunch of Americans in a very horrific way,
You want
then Americans
revenge.
can say, as soon as that emotional curve, actually, at this point, notice Trump didn't even make much of a case to Americans to go to war with Iran. He didn't put much effort into it. They did. There's like, we're going to go to war. He didn't ask Congress. There's like, let's
Right.
go. Look, and the generals are like, okay, let's go. I mean, this is totally dictatorship. It's total, quite literally. I mean, if any other country was doing this, we would say that's a hardcore military dictatorship. That's
Right.
what we would call it
Yeah,
because
I
that's
mean,
what it
like I'm saying, he didn't even get an authorization from Congress, and I think the Democrats tried to block the vote that Massey and a
Yeah,
couple other people tried to bring up because they didn't want to go on record because they all support it and they want to pretend they're against it. But
right.
I, I just I don't see this ending positively unless we get out quickly somehow, and I don't know how we get out once it started.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I hate to short America, so to speak, but I would not be betting on success. It's just not it. You first of all, you have to have competent, loyal leadership, right? You need those things. It's
Right.
neither competent unless it's on the side of the Zionists, which is devastating. Keep in mind, we can never forget Trump was pushing the jab, right? That's it,
Yeah,
and he still does, right?
I know.
And so I mean, and now I know the people that live in idiocracy land will say Fauci fooled him. Okay, go out the door, right? We have no more time for that, right?
No, no, it's too late.
this is
It's too
life and
late
death
for that.
stuff. We don't have time for that, so but the when it comes to what's happening now, we're going against sophisticated people like Putin. He's not a child. He's a very serious man. He's very
Right.
smart. He's loyal to his people. He appears loyal to me, and he appears loyal to the Russian people. And he's a serious player. And Xi is also a serious player. I don't know about his internal personality, but he's a serious player, or his architecture is as well,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't mean they're undefeatable. Nope, there is nobody that can't be defeated on
Right.
Earth.
Right.
Anybody, right? And but at the same time, some are more irrational. I mean, you look at the Zionist architecture itself; it is an irrational cult. It's highly irrational. It's doing things that clearly lead to its own demise, right? And there's components of it, like a lot of the Christian Zionists, they want to have Armageddon. They want to have the end of times. And then there's a lot of Jewish Zionists that also want the same thing, right? For
Right.
different reasons. Not all, because keep in mind, Christians and Jews and Hindus and Muslims, they all have many components. You can't obviously
Yeah.
put any
Right.
right. And even if you're talking about Shia Islam, that has many subcomponents, right? It's like, and so it's always like that. So, but there are some components in the Zionist architecture from different directions that want to see the end of times. Those obviously for us are irrational. For them, it's completely rational to want the end of times because it fits their schema, right? It doesn't mean they're organically crazy like they're beating their head off
No,
the wall.
but they're just delusional. Like Mike Huckabee, for
Yeah,
instance. He might not be crazy, but he's totally delusional. I mean, he's a liar too.
exactly.
he's a liar too, because in that interview he did with Tucker, he was talking about, Trump's finally doing something about immigration. Okay, I was with Buchanan in the 90s. Huckabee was totally an open borders liberal Republican pushing that throughout the 1990s. So he's a liar. What I mean, but I think those people are a little dangerous because when you believe
Very.
like God wants war and wants you to kill people and I think that's a little crazy.
Yeah, that's
Like,
like not the God that I want, right? That's not my God, right?
yeah, I'm gonna say
It's
if
like,
God's telling you to kill,
yeah.
I'm gonna say if God's telling you to kill people, you're probably under demonic influence. I could be wrong, but
That's actually more accurate. I mean, and they clearly are demonic. They ran Epstein Island. They ran Epstein Island. Period. Right?
yeah, and that is amazing. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at that article I sent you here. They're doing in Florida. They're trying to create like a kind of a Stasi here to be able to even go after you for your speech, like a counterintelligence agency
Oh,
under
right. The
Florida.
Mossad,
And
the Israelis want to be able
what the
to.
hell was it? Celebrite was the Israeli intelligence company that's the one who's lobbying for this bill. And so it's like, to me, that's actual treason to even push this bill. But hopefully it won't pass here. But yeah, these people don't believe in freedom. And when I say these people, I'm not even just talking about design. These people that are pushing this kind of statism all across the board. Like I call them psychopathic authoritarians. I just think that it's irrational, it's delusional, and I just think we're literally going to war that's heavily influenced by people's what I would say radicalized religious beliefs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And cults. I mean, one thing I've learned in my study of cults, I infiltrated a cult and lived with one years ago in California. But I studied cults quite a lot in India and Nepal and other places. Ended up living with one in California. It took a lot of, it was fascinating. It was one of the most interesting things I've ever done in my life, actually. And it was
So it's like
highly
kind of wild.
educational. And I learned a lot of things. I learned that the only cult people never see is the cult that they're in.
Right.
And I learned also that, and you can be in multiple cults actually. And some cults they blend with each other. They do all kinds of things. Cults are alive. It's like it's a firmware sort of, right? The firmware also adapts to what's going on around it. And in any case, I learned also that there is nothing that people in a severe cult will not do, and I mean nothing. They will sacrifice their babies and feed them to crocodiles. They
Mhm.
will, which has really happened in Bangladesh before. They will, sacrifice them and roll them down the steps. They'll put jabs on them, hold them up for the Instagram, literally put death jabs, the Trump jab, the Zionist jab, and they'll put it on Instagram, right? They'll do that. So you got the Zionist cult making that thing, and then these other cults, which have been fashion made, because as you know, you can create cults. There's people that are very good at creating cults. Cults can be made very quickly, by the way. Some emerge over time, they take a long and they evolve. Others are like snap. You can sail a ship from one port to another. There's famous ship cults, right? The maritime, basically, especially in the old days where a ship takes off from, I don't know, let's say Rotterdam or something, and it's sailing over to New York. And somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, a cult forms on that ship. You know what I mean? This stuff is
Mhm.
normal. And but then there's people that know how to do this, and they weaponize them. And they use them either to rob the entire cult, or they use them to use the cult to go to war, or they use them, for whatever reasons that they want.
Well, I guess it comes down to group identification. You're never going to be threatened by a cult of individuals.
No, yeah, yeah, it becomes this murmuration, right? It becomes
Yeah,
a group that you
yeah,
control, like a herd, actually, and you're the cowboy. I mean, you
yeah,
basically assemble because people tend to be herd animals. We tend to be herd animals,
right.
and we all have the ability to be in the herd or individual. Some people
Hmm.
will tend more to be in the herd, and some will tend to be more individual.
Right.
But all of us can do both, right?
Yeah.
And the one, especially the ones that tend to be in the herd, those are easy to, you just get them in different
Yeah.
herds. And you see the politics when you had different, you have these different influencers. Let's say the MAGA universe. You've got the Tim Pool guy. He gets the young guy that, I'm a skateboarder, right? Okay, he gets that
Yeah.
crowd. So you have different groups that get different, that take part of different components of this, right?
Yeah, it's
And so,
almost like
but
the
but
almost
but
like the
then they're grouped together.
genres. It's almost like doing the genres with books or movies. You got your romantic comedy, you got your action adventure, and They do the
Right.
same thing within the political universe, and they put people out there to control the narrative for each segment. I'm
And it's
always
simple.
suspicious of
It's
these
not
people with these
expensive.
giant. Yeah, I'm always suspicious of the people with giant platform. I mean, they might not all be compromised, but I'm like, how come they're not getting shadow banned? Like,
Right.
so
Right.
if the rest of us were like, on shadow ban hell.
And highly enabled. Highly
Yeah.
enabled. Right.
I know you have to run because you got to eat breakfast. Give us some final thoughts
Wow.
on.
You're right.
Yeah,
It's after
I
5 in the
just looked at.
morning.
Yeah, so give us some. I guess where do you think this is going? Give us some insights here.
Well, if we go with the basic rules of war prediction, this thing's going to grow and it's going to be unpredictable
Give me
and
some
it'll
spread. What
last
do you
longer than
think
people
though?
expect.
Like, I get that, but what do you think? Like, for instance, will Turkey get involved? Or do you see any specific things happening that could like with any specific countries?
The Zionists want to get Turkey involved, right? They clearly want to get Turkey involved. First of all, you got the Turkish Straits right there, which is pretty vital, right?
On
I mean,
their
if you're going
side or
to
the other
Russia, you're
side?
going to
Like,
put them.
will Turkey get involved with Iran, or would they be against Iran in this conflict?
In this case, they will have, they will both be going against Israel, right? Yeah,
Okay.
clearly. Yeah, clearly.
Okay.
Because Israel is openly threatening Turkey, right? And again, you've got to be out of your mind to threaten all these major players and think that you're gonna somehow walk out of this. Either they're delusional, or it's part. It could be some combination of complete delusion, or they actually their plan is just to go ahead and destroy their own country as well. Keep in
Yeah,
mind
unless they
when you
got a
go to
bunch of
Israel.
unless they got a bunch of neutron bombs or something we don't know about, and they're just gonna, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I mean, they would know that if they do that, Russia and China will probably nuke them, right? I
Yeah.
mean, somebody will. Anybody that can land them on them, right? And there'll be no place on Earth that'll be safe for anybody, right?
All
But
right,
the,
so
but
real quick, this spreads, this grows, but how does it play out differently? Because we're in a nuclear world. We weren't 60 years ago.
somebody could pop a nuke off at any moment, at any
Yeah,
moment.
that just
Yeah, and they can blame it on somebody else. They can say, "Boom, oh, a nuclear weapon went off. It was Pakistan, right?" And when it wasn't really Pakistan, it was Zionist or something. Who knows? We know they do fall, or maybe it was Pakistan. I don't know. If they have nuclear weapons,
and
and of course,
that could go one of two ways, right? If something like that happens, that could be the cause for people to pause and do a ceasefire or
yeah,
reactions and reactions, and we're done.
yeah, oh, yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to get more and more dicey, and it can take a long time before it reaches, a conclusion. But
Hmm.
we'll see. Let's see how it unfolds in the next couple of weeks. Does everybody stop shooting and go back to their corners? But if they do, that doesn't mean it's over. That just means they're pausing to reload and reassess. Right now,
No,
Israel, if they start losing, they're gonna immediately go, "Oh, it's time to we've damaged Iran enough. It's time to negotiate with Iran." And no,
we've taken out
that
their
would be the
nuclear
sign that they're
program.
losing.
Yeah,
Right?
we've taken out their nuclear program. It's time for a ceasefire. Um, uh, I mean, I guess this could go the way of like Russia and Ukraine and kind of be a more controlled war, but drains resources. That could
Yeah.
happen too, I suppose.
Yeah, but this is part of that war. This is the same war. This is not separate. It's the same war. This is the Ukraine. This is a different battlefield of the Ukraine war, right? It's a different battlefield of what's happening in Panama. It's
Hmm.
all the same war. All this, migration, quote unquote. A lot of it, which is being done by Zionists, like HIAS, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. A lot of it's being done by them. It's all the same war. The drugs everywhere. Keep in mind, Israelis are highly drugged up too. So it's not just that they're just pushing drugs on everybody else. They push drugs on their own people, right? And so the Israelis also are highly jabbed, right? And a lot of the Israelis are dying too, right? As you well know, right? So it's like they're also being attacked by their own system. It's not like it's just them against us. It's this other thing that's also going after Israelis. It's not. The more you study this thing, the more you realize this jungle is not what it appears from a distance. It takes some time you have to go in that jungle and look at it for a long time to get to take the heartbeat.
The absurdity and sanity of it is hard to fathom. I guess maybe it's always been like this, but we didn't have the ability to see what's happening all over in the world. But Michael, final comments, and then we'll wrap up.
Thanks for having me on. And I mean, obviously, this could change your life right now. What's happening with this war? All of our families have been through a lot of wars and famines and pandemics. Everybody watching this, you come from a family line that's been at war for a long time. So we come from all of us. Everybody watching this comes from a strong background. And so the people that do well in times like these are the ones that recognize change and either take or don't take action, because not taking action is taking action. But you make accurate decisions on what to do, or if you make an inaccurate decision, you quickly recover from it, learn from it, and get better. So, but there are people that can come out of these much better than they went into them, right? And then some people won't make it because they're in the middle of some battlefield. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. It's just another challenge like our ancestors have been through. Time to
Hmm.
put game faces on and get ourselves through it.
Yeah, don't get trapped by maladaptive beliefs. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Doctor.